From the vantage point of a globally seasoned military strategist, the evolving geopolitical landscape reveals a troubling dynamic in Northeast Asia, one in which South Korea's Yoon Suk-yeol administration appears increasingly ensnared as a pliant surrogate serving the strategic interests of a powerful U.S. deep state. Even as President Joe Biden's Democratic administration doubles down on war-driven economic gains, particularly through lavish military support for Ukraine, there are signs that these same interests are looking beyond Europe, attempting to integrate the Korean peninsula more deeply into a long-term framework of strategic confrontation and profit. Several recent developments in Seoul underscore how thoroughly the Yoon government has acquiesced to Washington's agenda, often against the sensibilities of the South Korean public. When it was revealed that U.S. intelligence had been eavesdropping on high-level South Korean government communications, the Yoon administration adopted an inexplicably deferential stance, essentially permitting what any sovereign nation would view as a profound breach of trust. Throughout his term, Yoon's approval ratings have remained consistently low, reflecting widespread public dissatisfaction. This pattern of subservience extended further when Biden pressed for a trilateral alliance structure between the U.S., Japan, and South Korea to contain China. Rather than assert South Korea's own national interests, Yoon's government took a humiliatingly conciliatory approach toward Tokyo, despite lingering historical grievances, reinforcing the impression that Seoul's moves are guided by American strategic demands rather than its own diplomatic priorities. Simultaneously, Washington has urged major South Korean conglomerates to relocate their manufacturing facilities onto U.S. soil, a maneuver that drains Korea's domestic industrial base for the economic and strategic benefit of the United States. On the military front, Yoon's administration has ventured into provocations seemingly aimed at aligning with Washington's preference for heightened tensions, launching drones toward Pyongyang and enabling anti-North Korean propaganda leaflet campaigns, actions that do little to advance regional peace and instead ratchet up the threat level, potentially justifying increased U.S. arms sales and further entrenched militarization. What is perhaps most alarming is the erosion of democratic norms within Seoul itself. A sudden invocation of martial law, enforced by both military and police units, was imposed and then rescinded overnight under intense pressure from the National Assembly. This unprecedented display of authoritarian leaning further alienated the public, and now Yoon, who has struggled with persistently low approval ratings throughout his presidency, faces impeachment proceedings initiated by citizens outraged at his submissive stance and domestic power plays. Notably, the ruling party has taken a stance against the impeachment effort, deepening the chasm between the government's actions and the will of its own people. From the vantage point of strategic analysis, it seems the United States is crafting an environment in which South Korea is locked into a continuous cycle of hostility and arms procurement, one that not only strengthens the U.S. defense industrial complex, but also positions the peninsula as a readily mobilizable forward base in any protracted U.S.-China rivalry. As the Biden administration channels over $60 billion into Ukraine, adding another $24 billion to the request pipeline, defense contractors thrive while ordinary Americans see no direct benefits. This pattern could replay in Northeast Asia, with Seoul's pliancy enabling a similar injection of capital, weaponry, and strategic leverage. In essence, experts caution that we are witnessing a calculated maneuver by unelected U.S. power brokers to extend their war economy model across the Pacific, leveraging a compliant Yoon administration to secure profit and strategic dominance before the potential pivot of a new American presidency, one that may be less inclined toward foreign entanglements. The disturbing combination of domestic authoritarian measures, exemplified by the fleeting martial law episode, persistent low approval ratings, a now imminent impeachment challenge, and a ruling party opposed to this impeachment paints a picture of a once sovereign actor reduced to puppet-like dependency. Should this trajectory continue, the Korean peninsula risks becoming yet another profitable hotbed of tension and conflict, stoked not for the sake of regional stability or Korean interests, but to keep the engines of the war economy running at full speed. Worse still, these developments would place South Korea squarely on the front lines of a looming, decades-spanning US-China power struggle, ensuring that its role as a compliant proxy would hold critical, if deeply troubling, significance in the long-term contest for global supremacy.